LG's V20 is one of the few flagship tier phones that still offers features like a removable back and an IR blaster, and even more unique features like a secondary display and dual cameras. LG have graciously sent me this one for review, which won't be affecting my opinions on the device or how they're presented to you at all, of course. So I guess the question we should be asking is, am I going to be sad to send it back? Let's start out with some specs and kind of a physical tour. The phone feels really premium. It's very solid and it feels extremely well built. At first it didn't make much of an impact on me, but I found that pretty much every day I liked the feel of it more and more. And I will note that the phone definitely feels pretty slippery, but I've been using it around a month without a case and I've never dropped it. Your mileage may vary, and if this were my daily driver, I'd put a case on it either way, but that's more just to keep it safe. The premium feel seems especially impressive given the 3200 mAh battery is removable, like I mentioned before. When you take the back off to change the battery or the SIM card or the SD card, it just feels perfect after you put it back on, and you'd never really guess that a second ago there had been a piece removed. Side note, removable batteries are really a rarity, and so if you're into carrying a second battery for extreme longevity, that's definitely a nice feature here. Along the left, we have two separated volume keys, which are quite clicky, and each double as an app shortcut while the device is locked, something I had no idea about until I was writing this review. Double tapping the bottom volume key takes you to the camera app, and the top one takes you to the drawing and memo screen, where you can export whatever you write or a picture or whatever as either an image or a memo. The only thing on the right side is a button to release the back plate. You just press it and the back pops off, which gives you access to the battery, the SIM, and the storage. On the top, we have one of three high acoustic overload point microphones and an IR blaster, which is another cool, less common feature that Samsung did away with the S6 and the Note 5. I like having the IR blaster to control my TV. I don't use it all the time or even really necessarily often, but it is handy if the remote isn't nearby, as I can just fire up the app and use my phone. On the bottom, we find a headphone jack. Spoiler alert, that's one thing I'm going to miss about going back to my iPhone. Another microphone, and a thankfully USB-C charging and data port, and a down-firing speaker. Which is a little too bad, but at this point I'm used to down-firing speakers that become pretty popular, and this one's pretty good. It's reasonably loud, and I frequently listen to audiobooks while cooking, and it usually works very well for that, oftentimes even with the dishwasher running. On the back of the phone, we have the dual cameras that are actually really cool, one of which being a 16 megapixel f1.8 29mm standard lens, and the other being an 8 megapixel f2.4 12mm wide-angle lens, though I'll talk more about the cameras later. And we also have a lock button / fingerprint reader that I found to be fast and accurate. Let's get to the front of the phone. There's a gorgeous 5.7-inch 2560 by 1440, wait, what a minute, what is that? Yeah, this phone has a secondary display. It's definitely the most unique thing about the phone. It's a 2.1-inch 1040 by 160 touchscreen that'll show notifications, the time and date, quick controls, and even app shortcuts, with all but the latter two being what you see when the main screen is off. Do you need a flashlight? Don't bother unlocking the phone, just swipe and use the toggle, or turn off and on the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth or even silent mode. And of course, this is customizable just like the app shortcuts are, which are just another swipe away. You can even configure when the secondary display is on, though I just left it at the default always on setting, and it makes a surprisingly good solution for how to see pending notifications when the phone is just sitting on the desk in front of you. My only complaint about the secondary display is that there were probably 4 or 5 times, if not more, where I got into the car to find that I had at some point in the day accidentally turned off Bluetooth by hitting the secondary display toggle. You can remove the shortcut or just shut off the secondary display when the screen is locked if you want, so it's not a huge deal, it was just kind of annoying. Okay, back to the main screen. A quick note, it doesn't have rounded corners. I just used an app to make it look like the corners are rounded for aesthetics, and I forgot to turn it off. It is a 2560 by 1440 resolution, so it's very crisp and it generally looks great. Watching videos and playing games was always a good experience, and of course, where it's huge, it's pretty good for media consumption. And it also supports double tap to wake, which is useful when the phone is sitting on a desk and helps mitigate having to pick up the phone to hit the lock button / fingerprint sensor on the back. It's still going to be a little bit inconvenient sometimes. I found the fingerprint reader on the back comfortable in general, but I think I prefer them on the front in general so that you can wake the phone when it's lying flat. Although, if you don't use fingerprint authentication and it's just a lock button to you, then double tap to wake should pretty much solve that problem for you. At the top, next to the secondary display, we have a 5-megapixel f1.9 selfie cam, which again, I'll talk more about later. The phone has been overall really great. I've been getting solid but not phenomenal battery life, lasting me to the end of the day on all but the heavy usage days where I spend a while playing Rovercraft and watching Netflix. So yeah, it hasn't been mind-blowing battery life or anything. In fact, I think it could and probably should be a bit better, but it's pretty good. And like I said, you at least have the option of carrying a spare, and if you don't want to, it should usually get you through the end of the day. Performance in general is also great. The Snapdragon 820 and Adreno 530 pair pretty much smash through anything you throw at them at about the level of performance you'd expect, and the 4 GB of RAM is really useful actually too, depending on your use case. There have been many times I've been playing a game and then abandoned it for hours, only to come back later and find it exactly where I left off, still in memory, which is actually really nice. The phone runs Android 7.0 Nougat with all of the awesome features like split-screen apps being built into the OS, and comes with 32 or 64 gigabytes of built-in storage, along with microSD card expansion. My only real complaint about the software experience is LG's flavor of Android. And don't get me wrong, it's pretty stock and definitely far better than skins we've seen in the past, but I don't understand why OEMs feel the need to mess it with the swipe down menu specifically. On a stock Android phone, you can swipe down from the top and edit which Wi-Fi network you're connected to, or even which Bluetooth device you're connected to, but LG goes the Samsung route of removing this functionality and instead leaving you with just toggles, so you can turn Wi-Fi or Bluetooth off or on and long press them to get to the settings to actually change the network. I don't know why they do that. Maybe it's because they feel it makes it simpler for less experienced users, but honestly, I find the stock Android swipe down menu is really great and very intuitive in my opinion. So I think it's just completely unnecessary and most users would make out fine with it. And really, all you're doing is taking away a good thing. The only other change I could really see to Android at all is the settings app. I'd actually prefer the stock version of that too, as the Nougat settings app is quite easy to navigate, but that's not really a big deal, and I'm kind of just getting nitpicky now. I won't deny that I love stock Android and I'd prefer it's not messed with, but there are good things here too. It is a nice interface. Let's come back to those cameras. The selfie cam is pretty good in well-lit situations, though I found it to be a bit more washed out and blurry than the iPhone 7, and it has a wide mode, like the rear cameras, but unlike the rear cameras, it just uses the same single lens rather than actually having two cameras. Let's get into the dual cameras. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a wide-angle lens and a regular lens. This is kind of the opposite of the iPhone 7 Plus, that has a regular lens and a more zoomed-in lens. What the V20's second lens is capable of is almost more like a one-photo panorama, and it's really cool. The field of view on this thing is almost as wide as my eyes, at least based on holding the phone pretty much up to my face and taking a picture. So it's really great for taking a picture of a room, for example. You actually get to see pretty much everything you want to see in the picture. Both of the rear-facing cameras look great in good lighting, and I have no complaints at all there. In low light, however, I was a little disappointed. I guess I've been spoiled by the iPhone 7 and the Note 7, but the V20 is a similarly priced device, and it just felt really slow and grainy in low light. But hey, it does have a bunch of extra features, so yeah. Those are my thoughts on the V20. Am I going to be sad to send it back? Yeah, it's a really great Android experience if you're into phablets, good performance, and features you mostly can't find on other devices. And they're not like early tester type features. It doesn't feel like you've got an early access phone. They're just cool additions to a flagship tier device. The removable battery, the IR blaster, the high-quality audio DAC, which I would have talked more about, but frankly, I'm not the person to talk about. Basically, it just has really good sound quality. And even, of course, the secondary display and dual cameras. There's a lot packed into this phone. So if you want to buy this phone, check out my Amazon affiliate links in the description that give me a kickback when you buy, and drop a comment letting me know your thoughts. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and ring that bell to get a notification when I post. My Nintendo Switch review will hopefully be up 1 week after its March 3rd release date. That is, if I can stop playing Zelda and snipper clips for long enough. And mash that like button if you want to try to convince LG to send me the G6 for review, because I'm definitely going to be asking for one. Check out this video if you want something else to watch, and check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch at the links in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.